Hey, what's up everybody? Hammer Heart Metal Reviews here once again. Today we're doing another discography countdown. This is by request. I am going to be redoing Enslaved's discography. Enslaved was actually one of the first bands I ever did a discography ranking for when I first started this channel, but they did recently just drop a new album, which I did an album review for. That album's titled Heimdall. Came out a couple weeks ago, and based on some of the comments, there was some interest in me redoing the Enslaved discography ranking to include the new one, so I am going to be doing that for you today. In preparation for this, I did not go back and watch my previous ranking, so I'm not sure how similar or how different this one is going to be to that one. I wanted to go in fresh. I'm sure over the last couple years, maybe my opinions on some albums have switched spots a little bit. I know for certain what I have in number one is exactly the same as what I had in number one before, because it's been my favorite Enslaved album for a very long time. So that one is in the same spot. If you haven't watched the previous ranking, then maybe it will be a surprise. But as for the rest, we'll see where I put them this time around. Like I said, I don't know if they're going to be in the same spot as before. I'm sure it's somewhat similar, as I don't think my opinions on these albums have changed too much. But we'll just see what order I've got it in. So, if you haven't heard this band before, which would be crazy, they have been around a very long time, since the early 90s to the present day. One of the biggest names out there in Norwegian black metal, but these days it's more of like progressive black metal, really Viking themes throughout their whole career, and I absolutely love every single album that this band has ever done. They got 16 albums, very hard discography to rank. Even what I am putting near the very end here, these are still albums I very much enjoy. I truly feel like there are no bad albums in these 16. So it's such a hard ranking, like stuff that I have in 13th, 14th place. Those could be very high on someone else's list, and I wouldn't really think that there's anything wrong with that. All these albums are so good that I can easily see everyone having different opinions on what their favorites are, because there's things to love in each and every one of these albums. There's different eras throughout their career. Started out with more of a straight-ahead black metal approach with Viking metal themes. But there was still, even back in the early days, there was still a little bit of a progressive edge, and kept on experimenting as time went on, and they have become the progressive black metal legends that they are today. So anyways, I'm rambling on long enough. Let's see what order I've got these 16 albums in. So, coming in last place, my least favorite Enslaved album, but prefacing that by saying I still very much enjoy this album. It is not bad by any stretch. It's just the one that maybe doesn't stand out to me as much as some of the others. I'm going to 2017 with the album E. So, this one was the follow-up to a string of very successful and very well-done albums. It did see a slight shift in their lineup. Their longtime keyboardist had left the band before this album, and it did have a little bit of an impact on this album, I do feel like. They had a few albums in a row where the clean vocals were done by the keyboardist, and they were very well done. It's not to say that they're not well done on this album, but I did find it that they were kind of like trying to refine their sound here. It goes in a little bit of a different direction, but all that being said, I still really enjoy this. Got some standout tracks like The River's Mouth, Storm Sun. All in all, still a very good album. It's just in last place because something has to come here, and unfortunately, it's this album. Up next in 15th, I'm actually going with the brand new one, Heimdall, that was just released. So you can go check out my review to see my full thoughts on it. I won't go into too much detail here. I do still very much enjoy this album. It's just lower on my list, first of all, because I haven't spent nearly as much time as with it as I have all these other albums, because Enslaved is one of my favorite all-time bands. I listen to the shit out of all their albums. This one's still fresh. It does do a little bit more experimentation, kind of follows in the footsteps of the previous album, Utgard, but goes even some different places. Definitely one of their most progressive albums, but there's still some standout tracks. Forest Dweller, Caravans to the Outer Worlds, Congelia. All in all, still a very well done album. Once again, it's only down here because I like some other ones a bit more. Speaking of Utgard, that's coming up next. From 2020, it's in 14th place. It's the album that preceded Heimdall and the album that followed E. You can see that my last three picks here are their three most recent albums. It's not to say that I don't like them, though. These are still very good albums that you should check out. I just find that these newest three don't quite hit the peaks that some of their earlier material did, but I don't want it to sound negative because I still absolutely love this album. Got great songs like Fires in the Dark, Homebound, Utgard. All in all, this is still a very solid album. It was one of my favorite albums from 2020. So that just goes to show you. It's in 14th place because everything this band releases is fucking gold. Absolutely good stuff here in 14th. All right, now let's switch it up. Go back in time to 2001 with Monumension. So this one, when it came out, definitely a shift in style. This was the follow-up to Mardraum, which I haven't talked about yet, which really saw them going in a more experimental and progressive direction. But then this one took it even a notch further, and it's a little bit uneven. That's why I've got this one ranked lower down. There are some absolutely standout moments here, some great tracks. A lot of people seem to hate on this album because it's so strange and there's some odd moments, but I think there's some absolutely amazing moments here too. The song Smear is amazing. Convoys to Nothingness, the voices. Like, I still overall really dig this album. Yes, there's a couple strange songs throughout, but all in all, as a whole, I still really dig it. It's in 13th. Up next in 12th, I'm going with Vertebrae from 2008. So this one kind of pains me to put in 12th place because I really dig this album. This one saw them go in a different direction once again, kind of like dialed back the aggressiveness. But like, there's still the black metal rasps there, but it's not as like dirty sounding as some of their other material. But I still really enjoy this album a lot. Like I said, it kind of pains me to put this in 12th, but it's a really hard placement between everything I have ranked from like 12th down to even 8th. They could switch spots like anytime. I really love all these albums. The song Ground here on Vertebrae, absolutely one of my favorite Enslaved songs. Other standouts like The Watcher, To the Coast. All in all, another solid album in 12th. Up next in 11th, I'm going to go to 2015 with In Times. So this one was the follow-up to RIITIIR, and they had kind of had a few albums in a row that had a similar vibe, similar atmosphere, and kind of similar style with like Axioma, Ethica, Odini, RIITIIR, and then In Times. This one, out of those 3 albums, I'm only putting it last out of those 3 because it kind of follows the same style and same template. But that being said, it's executed so well, and some of these songs are absolutely memorable. You got songs like 1,000 Years of Rain, amazing stuff. The title track In Times is awesome. Building with Fire, like front to back, I love this album. Once again, this is just impossible. It's not even in my top 10, and I fucking love it. That's how good this band is and how good their discography is. But yeah, for today, it's in 11th place. All right, now we're into the top 10. In 10th place, I'm going to 2006 with Ruun. So this one, yeah, definitely in their more modern era of like progressiveness. Really not, I wouldn't even consider this really a black metal album. There's still hints of black metal in there, but this really went in a different direction, started experimenting with their songwriting, and I really enjoy this one. Awesome songs like Essence, Entroper, the title track Ruun. Like, you will be singing along to this album. It is so catchy, it is so awesome. Could have even been higher than 10th, but for today, it's in 10th place. Up next in 9th, I'm going with RIITIIR from 2012. So this was the album right before In Times, and basically everything I said about that album applies here, but I think I'm giving the edge to this one, at least for today. Just maybe some of the moments stand out a little bit more, but it's so neck and neck. All these albums that I'm talking about right here in this stretch are so close to me. I absolutely love them all. But yeah, this one's got Thoughts Like Hammers, Roots of the Mountain, Storm of Memories, like just epic long tracks with great riffs and just impressive songwriting on display. Really a solid, epic album. Absolutely love it. Once again, kind of pains me to put this at 9th, but something has to come here. This is just tough when there's this many good albums, but it's in 9th for today. Up next in 8th place, let's go back to 2004 with the album Isa. So another one where they kind of shifted their direction again. This was the follow-up to Below the Lights, which I haven't talked about yet, which really saw them go in a new direction. And this kind of followed that template, but then went in some different places as well. And this has some absolutely standout tracks. Bounded by Allegiance is probably my favorite track on this album, which I think is a super underrated Enslaved song. One of my favorites for sure. Lunar Force features some guest vocals from Abath. Ascension is great. Really, front to back, I love this entire album. Catchy as hell, awesome stuff. In 8th place. Go with something a little bit different up next in 7th. Go with Mardraum from year 2000. So this is where they really started going and experimenting with their sound. This is very out there, especially compared to their earlier material. Everything they had released before this did not sound like this. This is where they really started expanding and experimenting with their songwriting. But man, it works so well here. Absolutely love every second of this album. This could even be higher than 7th. I feel like this is a super underrated album as well. We've got songs like Storen Tid Tingra Em Not, Det Ingle Riket, which I think is like the ending empire or something like that. Awesome stuff here. Some of the riffs are so aggressive, but still so like technical and progressive as well. It's just really awesome stuff in 7th place. Up next in 6th, I'm going with the album right before that, Blodhemn from 1998. So this was like pure aggression. This is probably their most aggressive, in-your-face black metal album, but I absolutely love it. Some of the standout tracks, Nidinga Slakt is one of my favorites for sure. The riff in that song, wow, it will knock your socks off. The drumming on this album is intense. The riffs, the solos, it's like frenzied assault of awesome stuff. Really great. The title track, Blodhemn, is great. Linkr Till Ragnarok to kick it off. All in all, solid album. Just missing out on the top 5, but 6th place is not too shabby in a discography that's this goddamn good. All right, now we're into the best of the best, my 5 favorite Enslaved albums, at least for today. So coming in 5th place, I'm going to 2003 with Below the Lights. So this one is kind of universally hailed as one of their best, like in their progressive era, and rightfully so. This album is amazing. It took them to a different level with their songwriting. Like the album kicks off with As Fire Swept Clean the Earth. That kind of song wouldn't have been on previous albums, but it works so well here. And then you've got like a folky Viking song like Havenless, Queen of the Night. Like they're bringing in some flutes. They're really experimenting to really push the boundaries of what they could do, and it succeeds so well here. This is a progressive black metal masterpiece, and that's why it's in my top 5. Up next at number 4, my favorite album of their modern era, which is Axioma, Ethica, Odini from 2010. To me, this is the album where they perfectly captured all the styles that they were kind of shooting for with the albums that led up to this, like Below the Lights and Issa and Ruun. And yeah, this just accumulated into making this masterpiece of an album. All their experience over the years, and this just built upon the foundations of that. This was the follow-up to Vertebrae, where they had really changed their sound a little bit, and this, I think, improved on that vastly, and just the finished product is absolutely amazing. Easily my favorite modern Enslaved album. By saying modern, I mean like from the last 15 to 20 years. But yeah, it's amazing stuff here. Favorite tracks, Ethica, Odini, Giants, Lightning. By front to back, love every second of this album. That's why it's in 4th place. All right, went to the top 3. If you know the band, you'll notice that I haven't even mentioned the first 3 albums yet. Well, that's what's coming here. That is my favorite era of the band. It is not a knock on their other eras. I love everything by this band, but if I had to just pick 3 albums, these next 3 are the ones that I go to the most. So let's see what order I have them in. Coming in 3rd place, I'm going with the patch that I have right here, Vikingligr Veldi from 1994, the debut. The amazing part here is that Grudel and Ivar were still teenagers when they wrote these songs. And you listen to how crazy these songs are, and that is so impressive that teenagers did this. Like, yes, it's rooted in like Viking style black metal, but there are still progressive moments. It brings in keyboards. It's got very long, epic tracks. And this is just amazing, amazing stuff. It's got songs like Midgard Eldar, Levandi Leaf Under Hammery, Veteranot. Absolutely amazing stuff. This could even be higher than 3rd, but for today it's in 3rd. I do also want to mention before I move on to the first 2 that if you have not listened to their first EP, Hordane's Land, you need to go do that right now as well. It's very much in the same style as Vikingligr Veldi, and it's just as good. Like, if I was including an EP here, this would be right around this same spot. You got songs like Alfalder Odin and Slagad Skogen Bortentor, like one of the best songs ever. Absolutely amazing stuff. I have the re-release CD version that includes Vikingligr, Veldi, and Hordane's Land as a double CD set, and it's absolutely amazing. One of my most listened to CDs easily. Awesome stuff. In third place is Vikingligr Veldi. I just sidetracked there. Wanted to mention the EP because it kicks goddamn ass. Okay, 2 albums left. In second place, I'm going to their sophomore output, which is also from 1994, Frost. So this album, wow. This just stepped it up from Vikingligr Veldi. The songwriting got tighter, the performances got tighter, the production improved a little bit, and this just has some of their all-time best songs, especially in this style. Loke, Fenris, and my favorite track on the album is the underrated closer, Isodr's Drawning. I absolutely love the ice-cold guitar riff in this song. It's just soothing yet aggressive at the same time. I love the flow of that song, and I just love the flow of this whole album. Absolute masterpiece. Could have easily been number 1, but for me, it's number 2 because there's one album by Enslaved that I like a little bit more. It's always been my favorite ever since back in the day, and that is Eld from 1997, their 3rd album. Maybe an unpopular choice for a favorite Enslaved album, but I don't care. This is my ranking, and this is my favorite Enslaved album by a mile, actually. Like, don't get me wrong. Everything else I just mentioned, I absolutely love. But the album I listen to the most is easily Eld. This just from front to back is amazing. Starts off with the long epic Viking song 793. And like that doesn't sound necessarily like something they would have necessarily done on their first couple albums. Like there's not much in the way of black metal in this song. It's just an epic long tale about Vikings. But then from then on out, it's aggression throughout the rest of the tracks, and wow, some of my favorite tracks of all time. Verlenge Siden is probably my favorite Enslaved song, another underrated pick, I'm sure, but wow, absolutely love that song. Starts with like chickens making noises, some old man talking or something, I'm not exactly sure, but then the riffs and the song, fucking great. Kvasir's Blood, Alpha Blot, every single song here hits the mark. That's why it's my favorite Enslaved album. So anyways, these are just my thoughts and opinions as usual. I might go watch my previous ranking now to see how close it is to this one. I didn't want it to influence this one, so I started fresh. But definitely let me know your picks down below. Let me know your ranking, what your favorite Enslaved albums are. And until next time, Hammerheart Metal Reviews, out.